The Last of Us is only interesting because it is a video game. Its story is not particularly novel or great, but its excellence is achieved because of how it translates the post-apocalyptic narrative into a game. So when we translate this game into television, we actually lose what makes it so special. Let me explain. This scene in The Last of Us is one of my most memorable experiences of the entire game, and it haunts me still. The giraffe didn't do it for me, or Bill, or Sam, or Tess. This is a tie with the Doctor. It's this little ladder sequence. Video games have a long history of having sidekicks play as crucial roles in gameplay, from Navi and Ocarina of Time constantly reminding you, to Cortana being your tech goddess telling you about objectives, to Elizabeth throwing you ammo or creating cover. There's countless others. Companions have often been a tool in the game to help educate the gamer, navigate the gameplay, or enhance the narrative, and often now, a bit of all three. So why does this one specific ladder sequence haunt me? Because of what happens when you press triangle this time. You've pressed it countless times before to summon a sidekick to traverse heights and obstacles in this dystopia, but this time, as we approach the climax of the story, this time, after Ellie saved Joel and Joel saved Ellie after countless deaths at their hands or the hands of others, after Ellie coming face to face with one of humanity's best examples of evil and barely surviving, this time it was different. You go to where you need to, you press triangle, and she doesn't come. There's no sudden danger, but there's a moment of tension, almost a delay. And seemingly for the first time, the game does something unexpected, something interesting. You grip the controller a little tighter. Has something happened off screen? Is she alright?
Ellie?
But then you realize she's just sitting there distracted. Joel's tone is soft
Ellie?
and understanding.
The ladder. Come on.
You have to press triangle again. She slowly and reluctantly complies, her usual fieriness extinguished. But she immediately darts away after the ladder clatters down. If Joel's baby girl wasn't the first tell of the cemented father-daughter relationship, his shouting of Ellie the second time here surely is.
Ellie! Ellie!
This all culminates in the spotting of the giraffe, which, to a lot of people, is one of the best moments in the game. To some, it's one of their favorite moments in all of games in the 21st century. To me, though, what I feel is overlooked is the moment right before. The triangle in the ladder. Pressing the button here is different, and it's a reminder of how powerful games can be. There's an effect and an affect going on when we press the button on our PlayStation controller. There's the very real, mechanical, technological effect of us making an input with our thumb, which is now commanding scripts and codes to do a thing. But there's an emotional experience, or an affect. That, at least, is what Professor Aubrey Anable writes in her important text, Playing with Feelings, Video Game and Affect. We make choices and push buttons in games because of the complex interaction of various factors, one of which is how video games structure our feelings about those choices and actions through what appears on screen. When we enjoy a video game or not, how do we describe that experience, and to what do we attribute our feelings? How does it feel to play a video game? Games make us feel certain ways because of their very nature as games. And there's also a kind of intimacy in the pressing of a button. You can't touch a movie or a TV show, but can you touch a game? I certainly agree with her that the physical act of pressing buttons in games is what helps create an emotional experience for us as the gamer. Smashing buttons in a Mario Party minigame with friends, or getting the BXR combo in Halo 2 to finally pwn that noob. Even the silly meme of pressing F to pay respects says something about this experience. Pressing a button can be and is an emotional experience, but even more than that, the fact you're playing a game can create and does create a different structure of emotions in us than if we were just watching something like a couch potato. And I think that's on full display when you kill the Doctor to save Ellie. You and Joel are killing the Doctor. But unlike the HBO TV show where you watch Oberyn Martell go on a rampage, you, the player, are the one dictating this. Are you complicit in a way? You press the button to shove the scalpel in the throat. Is there a difference perhaps if no Russian was a cutscene versus how it gives us control? How we are pulling the literal controller trigger and the digital metaphorical gun trigger? Or similarly with the phosphorus in Spec Ops: The Line. Both of these games have such emotional scenes of horrible violence and do things with violence that I can't help but think of them as the forerunners of this idea in the Last of Us hospital sequence. I don't have the answer, only that in the game and in the show, these scenes just feel different. Just like, funnily enough, these latter scenes do. But unlike the raw, visceral darkness of shooting up the hospital, where translation from game to film might work, watching Pedro Pascal run around with a ladder doesn't really address this latter scene. We haven't seen them struggle up each environmental difference in height. We haven't gone through the motions of pressing triangle, hoisting up, climbing over, pushing over, helping up, figuring out. When Ellie doesn't come when we press triangle, I felt for the first time that Ellie was a character, and not some AI-controlled sidekick. It made a lot of her journey feel real. It made her scrambling away to see the giraffe even more real. The HBO show doesn't have the same effect. You could make a bit of reduction of this and be like, yeah, okay, games make us feel certain things because they are games and not something else. And yeah, I guess that is a simpler way to put it. But games also make us feel certain things when we, the player, are pressing the buttons. When a game freezes in time because it hinges on our input and participation. Versus something that rejects the player and reduces us to an audience and that can just play itself. Maybe I'm just really starting to dislike cutscenes more and more as I get older. I don't know why. You know what? Like, screw cinematics. Like, I'm here to play a game. I got this controller. Like, let me use it. You know? With the success of HBO's The Last of Us and Amazon's Fallout, and I'm sure I'm forgetting others, we are likely going to see more and more video game adaptations. The Last of Us in particular was shot cinematically to be like prestige television, like the scene with Sam and Ellie. But now in its recreation on HBO, it adapts the same style and angles from game to television. But the game drew inspiration from television. We have this Ouroboros effect of a show shot like the game, which was shot like a show. Sometimes it works, I guess, but I'm afraid now what the next movie game might try to be like, and if the creators in the back of their minds are going to be thinking about how will this be adapted into film or TV. Because the latter scene shows us how adaptations don't understand the actual emotional experience a particular sequence might have. As much as The Last of Us tries to be like something else, what are its most emotional moments as a game are when it reminds itself it is a game. You need to press buttons. You need to play the game, not watch it. And this is what can create the most rewarding experience. Funny little side quest, funny little tidbit that I found so interesting. In the original PS3 version, yeah, I know, came out on the PS3, you could approach killing the Doctor many ways. Flamethrower, pistol, bow and arrow. If you press the melee button, square, you'd kill him with the scalpel. Or even if you just walked up to him, scalpel. Or even if you pressed triangle, scalpel. One of the quirky little things in the Part 1 remake, or I guess just what is now called Part 1, is that you can see that now that they've added this contextual, diegetic button prompt. It hovers around his arm and shoulder. To press triangle. You always could, but they emphasize it more here. Triangle is the same button you use to stealth kill clickers. It's also the same button you use to boost Ellie to get you that ladder. I'm not sure why they added this button prompt in the remake, but I just find it so deeply interesting and curious. It's always the little things in video games, right? Anyways, I made a video a few years back about why I don't like the ending of Ghost of Tsushima, because the game makes us choose the ending. Now, upon reflection, I don't mind that it did, even though I still wish there was a system of honor and dishonor, like in Dishonored, that reflects our actions and doesn't reduce the entire game to a singular choice. I'll still take the Shimura showdown of making that decision because, for all the faults, it puts us back in the driver's seat of the game. I'm not some couch potato watching some awesome mocap and amazing graphics. I'm here to friggin' spam A and jump and block and swivel my joystick and clickety-clack on my keyboard. I'm here to play a game. Maybe I'm being a bit hypocritical because we don't get to control Joel when he shoots Marlene. Maybe I'm being a bit of a revisionist. Maybe anything after killing the Doctor is just a foregone conclusion and it doesn't really matter so much at that point. But I still think about that scene with the ladder. I still think about the final fight in part 2 on the shores of California, where again, the game's best moments are when it lets you play it out. And I still chuckle seeing Pedro run around to recreate something that can't be recreated, because it's adapting something that only has meaning if you held the controller in your hand for those 8 hours, letting each button press bring you deeper into Joel and Ellie's relationship. It only has meaning if you pressed triangle.
Ellie? Ellie?
What?
The ladder. Come on.
Right.